Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to this edition of Activating Your Personal Identity. And today, it's all about a friend of ours from our team, Punk and Pinstripe, Ben Wessner, who is going to dive into his own experience. One thing I want to say is the major gap with regards to authentic brand identity today is often the lack of consistency between our brand messaging and what we do every day. And so, with no further ado, I will ask my dear friend, Jess and Lisa, to, I guess, introduce you to Ben. Welcome, ladies, and welcome, Ben.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
He says as he's cautiously like, what have I gotten myself into?
What I got myself into. So, Ben, let's have some intro. Tell us who you are.
Sure. So my name is Ben. I am New York based. I am a software as a service professional, a leader, and most of that has been spent in the HR tech as well as revenue tech space. And my focus of expertise there has been the customer journey. So think of that as how you take care of your customers, how you grow them, how they reach their outcomes, and then ultimately how you renew and expand them.
And so where did you realize that, you're working on something really unique, right? And so can I just dive into and asking you, when did you realize there was a problem around customer journey design? And I guess with all this digitization happening around us, when did you realize there was a major problem that companies could actually start affecting around that?
Well, I think it's been a bit of a journey. I mean, I think I first realized that as you saw companies start to, back in the old days, pivot from kind of an on-premise enterprise-like existence where you were selling to capital budgets and then move to the subscription, which is more of a value on demand type of platform and required companies to organize differently. But further on down the road now, where you see a little bit of a tightening in the tech space. Now, companies are not getting the same new logo revenue, the same kind of client acquisition. So it puts a lot more focus right now on how leaky the bucket is in terms of preventing churn and making sure that customers reach their desired outcomes, the reasons why they bought your software.
So I want to actually dive into the journey you have been going through. Mm-hmm. And I will ask Jess, who actually spent a lot of time with you, to get us to really understand what happened when Ben decided that it's time for me to reevaluate what I do every day and where I'm going every day, and how I can start aligning the two to drive, I guess, better growth and value for myself.
Okay, so I think what Ben's been experiencing and what he invested his time and resource in this process is actually a sea change that we're seeing generally. And it's industry agnostic. It doesn't really matter. I mean, his particular expertise is in SaaS, especially as it relates to customer experience, but and in B2B. But I think that it's a sea change in terms of when you have companies, and I'll let Ben speak to his target market and who his audience is and who he works with. But when you have companies like this, that kind of fit his demographic, they are in a time of transformation. They need a massive amount of experience, which is expensive. They also need it on demand, very, very fast. And they need it kind of on a fractional, like a temporary basis. This is a pivot point. And so I think in working with Ben, and I'll let him define his own personal goals for why he did this, but I think it makes a lot of sense that when he's looking out at the landscape of the need for his services, it is fractional and it is on demand and it is fast paced. And so when he kind of takes that in and decides that this is what he wants to do and the role that he wants to play, how do we, number one, position him in that marketplace so that the target market identifies him and understands him and his skill set and what he can bring to the table. But more importantly for Ben, and as now his buddy, like we're friends. And so I'm totally on team Ben. how do we also make sure that we're attracting the right client, like someone that he wants to work with, an organizational structure that he's going to enjoy being in for a few months while he's helping them do this course correction. So I think those are the baseline kind of reasons and goals that we got into it. But I will now allow Ben to articulate for himself, like what he wanted out of this process, or, you know, where he was hoping to go with it. And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. I think that you know, you put your dues in early in your career, and to, you know, develop that experience, develop that expertise. And I was at a point right now where I wanted to kind of effortlessly put that experience to work. Maybe effortlessly is like a little bit too strong, but I wanted to remove friction. And so I wanted to present um, something a little bit different. So, you know, in the corporate world, you fit into a slot, you're a puzzle piece. And what I was looking to convey is the whole picture, what's possible, the potential outcomes, the mood, the experience. And ultimately, kind of the key points that I was trying to get across through this were: I'm experienced, I'm approachable, I simplify, and I will give you confidence. And so this was really an exercise of kind of simplification or decluttering what my true value story was, and presenting it in a way to lay a foundation for what's possible.
I was just gonna jump in, if you don't mind, Ben, because I mean, just kind of almost like analogous to the world of SaaS and subscriptions. There's so many things. I think that us as professionals, as we think about ourselves and who we are and creating that clarity, there's a lot of noise out there, right? There's a lot of people with a lot of experience, but that doesn't mean it's you. That doesn't mean it's Ben. And so I was actually reading another LinkedIn post by another Ben. He's based in Toronto, and he was talking about how long it took him to kind of write and find his voice and find like who he was. And, you know, he was actually talking about it on LinkedIn this week. So how did you connect the dots to, you know, on one hand, it's I'm going through this transition period, but on the other hand, it's like, how do I uniquely define who I am? Because I would assume that we almost all intuitively think that everybody knows who we are, right? So how did that realization first come upon you? And then, of course, my second question, and, you know, I'm going to put you and Jess under a little bit of time under tension, as my personal trainer likes to call it when she's working my muscles. Time under tension. You know, how was the process? Like, how did it feel going into it? How did it feel during it? And how did it feel coming out of it? I would love to know your journey, because it's kind of a
Right.
brave thing to do if we think about it. You know, it's like, okay, I'm going to go through this process, and it's kind of, yeah, I'd love to hear what you thought about the process, honestly.
Right. Honestly, yeah. So I think you go into it a little bit timid, saying just those things that you said. How do I differentiate myself? What's unique to me? And then how do I distill that so that it is uniquely and authentically me, and have the confidence to present that? And I think one of the things, I mean, I worked with Jess on this, and she is so good at detangling this. And the big thing is that it's not really creating anything new. Instead, it's more organizing it and understanding like where which items you really want to highlight that are truly authentically you. And it's an organization of those things, presenting that then develops exactly what you say, that voice. And suddenly it's a great platform to stand on, that you can stand on confidently, because it's real. It's not something that got created that Jess you know, created for me. Instead, she extracted it. And when she pointed to certain things, it was obvious that these certain things were my strengths. These were the things that differentiated me. And like I said, it was a matter of then organizing that in a clear articulation that really just made sense.
And actually, Ben, I realized while listening to you, so it was clear that you had a direction you wanted to go towards or reaffirm in some ways. And based on that, you have to realign your core values and beliefs about who was Ben and how Ben fitted within the current world we are living in. Can I ask you, so how do you define who is your target audience and your target market? Because we started talking about that earlier.
Sure. How do I define that? I mentioned like my area of expertise has been HR tech and revenue technology, and what my target market is companies that have seen success that are looking to transform. And it's in many cases, it's these founders that have not weathered a downturn before. And so therefore, they're saying, I think I know what I need, but I'm not sure. And if you pull that back to kind of the typical corporate hiring process, that means defining, the missing piece of the puzzle. And if I take that back and put it in that context that I just did, many of those founders don't know what the true edges of that piece are. And so they're looking for confidence in what that next move is. So instead of trying to myself define my edges and say, I'm what you need, I'm saying that this is what I bring to the table. These are the outcomes that I'm capable of accomplishing. This is the mood that I present. This is what the experience feels like. And then I will give you confidence. I will be your wingman. And so it's flipping that on its head and presenting an option which, brings down the anxiety and allows for transformation, for change in a way that I'm able to let the organization or let those leaders shine.
There's something so powerful in what. Oh, sorry, Jess.
No, I was just going to say, so there was something, that Lisa started on and Ben articulated, which is this process really works amazingly well for people with experience, people with credentials, people that have already done their work. They're a little further along in their careers for many, many reasons. But one of them is, what he was just saying is Ben really does understand who he's benefiting. He also understands who's hiring him. He also understands their pain points. And so that's all innate. I don't know those things. He knows those things. So all we're doing again is this articulation of who these people are, what they need to hear, what they need to understand, and how do we speak to them in a way that they're receptive to it so that it's a matchmaking at the end of the day. It's like, this is the person you need with the skill sets you desire to get the outcomes that they're going to drive you forward. And on the other side of the equation, these are the people with those needs that have to be met. And when you articulate and you're really clear with language, conversation, that's what pulls it all together. And so I love how Ben said that. And I think we need to revise our own marketing, that this is not about, sorry, there goes the French alarm system. This is not about creating anything new. This is about really sussing out what exists and just getting super refined and super clear. And so I love that. And it's very much for people with experience. This is not fake it till you make it. We're not marketing to market. We're branding and articulating to be very specific and to save time, to be efficient.
Well, I think one thing and I think it's definitely efficacy. So definitely, Jess, who has time to follow every fad and every 12-step program and, bob along. So Ben, amazing to you for going through because it is courageous to take that first step. It is stepping out of your comfort zone. But one thing that really, really resonated with me when you were talking is you started by saying, I know the edges of the puzzle piece and I can help somebody that hasn't seen those edges before. And then I'm just connecting back. Then you said, I'm your wingman. And of course, immediately, I'm a huge Top Gun fan. I mean, my age, where I grew up, I was I wanted to go into Top Gun, and my dad's a pilot. But I immediately thought of Tom Cruise in the latest movie Maverick as soon as you said I'm your wingman. And my immediate flash was to the part in the movie where he hijacks the plane and goes up, and they're like, what is he doing? You know, and he's like, basically what he's telling all his people that are set on this mission impossible, which is probably what a lot of founders and SaaS CEOs feel like, right? They can't believe it's achievable until they see that someone can do it. And I immediately, with your, like, I just went into a whole analogy that, like, you know, I've never worked with you, like, but I immediately saw your value prop, your voice. I've already connected it to, oh, he's been somewhere and he's achieved the impossible or something that's really hard to do. And even though, like, you know, let's just say I'm the CEO of some SaaS company, I'm part of this elite crew that's been asked to do the impossible again. I believe I can do it because Ben's up there flying that plane and he's shown me that that impossible mission is possible. So I just, like, that is exactly what I got out of those few statements. And hopefully that's the message that you want to convey with your skill sets. But, like, I was just blown away by how impactful those minutes that you said just were in conveying your point of view. And I'll kick it over to you to see, because clearly it's like, how did that become your voice? I would love to know, like, how that became your voice in this process.
How it became my voice in this process. I mean, I think some of it was just looking at how hiring is happening in the market right now. And so you've had a lot of layoffs in the tech space. So there's tons of talent out there. There's tons of great talent. But what it's meant for on the hiring side is it's almost like just trying to get exactly what you want when you don't know what you want. And I just saw that as a losing game for both sides, because if you don't know what you want and then you're asking people to kind of acquiesce into something in order to compete, that didn't make sense. So I wanted to kind of fall back on what my strengths were, and ultimately, you know, hey, let's be honest. There's egos involved in leadership, and what I saw as my strength is, you know, letting the business shine or letting leaders shine, and it was from there that that the wingman kind of came out, and for me, I don't think of the new Top Gun. I think of the old one. I think of Goose.
Yes. I love Goose.
R.I.P.
So when you meet with your new client, your target market, Ben, how do you now introduce yourself? How do you help them really unpack you in very short words? I guess you said, hey, I am your wingman, but what else do you tell them, please?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I speak to my strengths, which are, you know, my experience that exists. I speak to kind of the way that I look at the world, which is talking about simplification. I believe that if you distill things to common language where everyone can sit at a table and understand what people are talking about, and then be ultimately outcome focused. So you kind of have, again, like the experience, the mood, and then the outcome together, and then can speak specifically to what those goals are, and plot a path to accomplishing those things. So those are kind of that's the talk track that I use. And, you know, Jess and I built basically a description of what that feels like, and are marketing that way.
That's superb. So the next bit I was going to ask, and maybe Jess can help us there as well, is, you know, part of the process is the words, it's a word alignment, but we also have visual identity alignment, and then communication alignment. Can you help us unpack those as well with Ben?
So this is the point in the conversation where I give Ben like 5 gold stars for effort and accomplishment on the visual alignment, because one of the prescriptions after we got through this was like, you have to do a photo shoot. You've got to like get some clothes and some styling and location and a photographer. And we do photo shoots. In fact, we're doing a photo shoot together, ladies, in like 2 weeks. That'll be fun. It's fun and it's also excruciating. It's both. Like, it's really fun and it's painful. It is painful to sit there and look at photos of yourself and dissect them and then try to apply them and choose them and put them in places. So I want to say, because I'm in Paris and Ben is in New York, otherwise I would have been like by his side, like holding his hand and probably like, adjusting his hair or tie or something, but I wasn't there. He did this and they're amazing. They're great photographs. And I will say, like, followed the assignment to a T, because I was like, you're going to need this many outfits. We need bright and dark and inside, outside, all of these different settings. And I was blown away by the collateral that he and his photographer and stylist created. You guys will see it when we launch his website really, really soon. And I'll let Ben speak to whether or not it was worth it. But I think it was worth it. When I look at it, I'm like, it's invaluable. It's amazing what you can do with these images. And I think that his essence comes across. I think that everything that we're trying to express verbally and we're trying to express even with tone of voice, and it just pulls the whole thing together. But I'll let him speak about the hell/heaven that is doing a photo shoot.
Sure. I mean, what I would say, it's a threshold to cross. It's putting skin in the game. And of course, once you get all these back and they're enlarged and all that kind of stuff, it's like that moment when we first started using Zoom. It was uncomfortable for a second, but like I said, it is the skin in the game, and this is the new, this is the identity. So there's pictures, but there's also, like I said, the mood. Kind of the key points associated with it, and the pictures is kind of like the next step of that, so that you're kind of taking a step forward and saying, this is what it looks like now.
So I'm actually curious on that part, Ben, because I think before I went out on my own, like my last headshot had been like one of those corporate headshots that was done at the corporate headquarters, and we're all in I'll be even more boring, insurance. Like, we were all in like black suits or like whatever. It was really ridiculous. Maybe navy. We were being exotic. And then I went for my first photo shoot. And I mean, I grew up a dancer, so I'm pretty okay with photo shoots, but I was like, this is weird. And I kept thinking, and this is a little bit of my aversion to like dancing, because I always had stage makeup on, right? And they were like making up my eyes and doing all these things. And in my brain, I kept thinking, like, this is not authentic. Like, like I mentally, I'm here saying this on our Enquiry. I was like, this isn't authentic. Authentic is like me with my hair in a ponytail and a t-shirt and my tennis shoes and, like my iPhone. And, you're lucky if you get a selfie out of me, because I'm definitely not like that selfie. Like, yes, I take selfies, but I do for InsurTech with other people, but alone, no. But then I looked at the pictures and I thought, they're conveying who I am, like through my eyes, through my colors that I have in my outfits, through the pose, through the background, through the surroundings. And I thought, oh my gosh, I had missed this really critical part of conveying who I am. I would love to know if you went through that juxtaposition and how that felt, because I think a lot of us maybe listening think, oh yeah, well, if you're going for a photo shoot, you're not authentic. But I kind of like learned going through it that it actually was. I just didn't understand the journey. So I'd love to hear like what that felt like from your perspective, like in particular, having recently gone through this, and also kind of recently trying to brand yourself authentically, meaning like you still stayed true to who you were. I'd love to hear like how that felt.
For sure. And I mean, the big thing is that I'm not an expert in these things. So this was very much an uncomfortable experience. But what I was looking to do, first of all, I hired somebody that I knew did good work. And so I was trusting their expertise. But ultimately, it's a big funnel. We're getting a whole lot out there so that we can pull a few out the bottom that reflect exactly what it is that we're looking for. So there were a lot of options, and we went through those, and we said, okay, these are the handful that we're going to go for, because this really encapsulates the brand that we've created. This all those things that you mentioned, whether it be color, whether it be eye contact, whether it be background. It was important that we just went into it so that we could capture as much as possible, so that at the bottom we had exactly what we needed. And yeah, a big part of it was making sure that I had somebody that I trusted as well. So do all that. I'll be honest though, this was definitely the bottleneck in the process, though, just kind of getting this part done. And so probably, when you're wanting to get the message out, it took some patience in order to make sure that we got what we
Yeah.
ultimately wanted, and I think we did. So I'm really excited the way it came out, and I appreciate Jess's guidance for all this, because it was like a sheet of, we need to capture all of these things, and we don't know which ones are going to be good, and a lot go to the cutting room floor, but ultimately it was a great exercise, and I have like a lot of leftovers, so who knows what I'll use those for, but they're on deck.
Well, I have one quick follow on to that, which is because I also think that a lot of people could just say, well, okay, whatever, I can go get a photo shoot. Yeah, anybody can go get a photo shoot, because we can. There's a lot of photographers available, especially in the influencer, Instagram, TikTok world. But how did you use the core messaging? Like, could you have done it without identifying your wingman, core messaging, solving the puzzle piece? Like, how did that come together? Like, how did one influence the other?
Yeah, so we did all of our kind of branding exercises ahead of time, so that was already accomplished, and I shared, kind of those key points with the photographer, so he was aware of those things, and ultimately it was just kind of making sure that we felt comfortable with the entire volume that we would put in the top of the funnel, knowing that we would have things that would come out the bottom. So influenced it to a degree, but then it's a little bit of chance to see which ones actually work out. We're not like micro, art directing as we go. Really, it's like you got to trust the process, and the results will come. So it was there were a few steps to the process of picking what we thought looked good, and then also putting it out there. And even this morning, we went through some of them and just said, no, this looks like Netflix, or this looks like that. And so it was changing things around and making sure that it fit with, kind of the narrative and the mood that we were presenting.
So Ben, one thing which crossed my mind whilst you were talking is the outcome. And I think it's very important we touch upon the why, your why, and why you are doing this again. And the reason is, I'm reading this book, which is called 0 to 100 Million Sales Blueprint, from a gentleman I actually interviewed on my podcast called Gary Golf. And one thing he actually quoted, which is a very old quote, which I've read many times, is that for anyone going out there and trying to interact or sell to other people, or even seek investment from other people, 57% of the process is conducted before one starts talking to you. So people will do their research. They will like you, they will hate you, they will actually look at your persona, look at what you do, and then form a view as to whether they want to engage with you. So I want to make sure people realize that building your authentic self and your authentic identities is to achieve a clear outcome. And I would love for you to remind us of the outcome of this will bring to you long term.
Yeah, I think some of the things that you touched on right there, as far as providing an identity and a place for people to do that research about me. So to be able to understand who I am, and for that message, that brand to be out there and working for me while I'm sleeping. But a big part also was also making sure that it's authentic. Of course, this is me, and so when I'm in my authentic space, I'm not. I'm having fun, So I'm not trying to be somebody else. I'm not. I'm not in an uncomfortable place. So I think, Jess, one thing that you mentioned is, as we're going through this process, is there's 8 billion people in the world. And what I wanted to do was link up with the people that I wanted to work with. I wanted to be able to find those people where I had a mesh, or, the challenge was a mesh with me. And then it was the opt-in to create something meaningful there, as opposed to kind of flooding the market, or flooding the pond, as we would say in Minnesota. But I'm looking for specific things, and what I wanted to do is get it out there of who I am, so that those people also looking for specific things can find me too. So this is, you're absolutely right. This is a long-term plan, so that ahead I can do my most meaningful work with the people I most want to, and be selective in as far as where I spend my time and what I create.
This is superb. Jess, Lisa, anything else?
Oh, I just want to say,
add-
you guys, you would be so lucky to work with Ben. But I mean, you'll have to go through his vetting process. As he's very selective. We'll see if you make the cut, but I enjoyed it as much as he did. And I think we should interview me next time on how much I enjoyed the process, because I loved it.
Absolutely. And we definitely need to do that, both sides. Lisa?
I was only going to end on exclamation point being selective. I think Jess started with we are all experienced. This program, and by the time you choose to activate your authentic identity, whether you've done personal branding or whether you're doing our workshop or whatever mechanism you're choosing to activate that, you are experienced. And when you are experienced, you have earned editing and selectivity. And I mean that because it's fulfilling. And Ben, you did this so elegantly. It's fulfilling to both sides, because not being selective, one could say, well, everybody. No, it's not everyone is a match for your experiences, for your corporate aspirations, and for what you bring to the table. And that goes both ways. And so, and our great friend Greg Larkin always says this, right? You've got to send that sonar, or he calls it the bat signal, out there, so that the signal is heard by the people that need to hear it. And so I just wanted to amplify that, because throughout this entire discussion, what really resonated with me is how clear, which Jess said it a few episodes ago, bringing clarity to your voice, how clear Ben is about his selectivity and what it takes on both sides, what Ben brings to the table and what he's looking for. And I'll use your puzzle piece analogy, Ben, so that the puzzle fits, frictionlessly together. So this has just been total treat to hear your side of the story and understand what it was like to go through this process. And Jess, we see it in your smile. We know you liked working on this.
Yes, Ben, thank you so much for sharing. And one thing I want to finish on, if I may, is that Ben focus, right, is on HR Texas customers, and you have built a vision around what customer centricity and a new customer journey should look like. And one thing also which come to mind is the world is changing as to how we find our target audience, our customer, the people we want to connect with. Actually, today, we probably have to look at 3 overlapping sweet spot, actually, another sweet spot analysis, where we need to combine filmography, which is a company we want to go after, with demography, the people within those companies which make most sense, with psychology, which is about interest, activity, lifestyle. which is in some ways what authenticity brings, things which we can start aligning with the people we want to serve, the partners we want to work with, and the value we want to deliver in this world. So thank you, Ben, for joining us today. It was lovely having you.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed this.
Bye-bye, lady, and bye, Ben.
Bye.